Hello and welcome to Chez Zasaa. And today I've got a Zasaa Zooms In. I'm so excited about this because I've got 5 of my girls here. There's 6 of us, so there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I'm going to get them to introduce themselves, but we are going to... No, actually, let them introduce themselves. Please, can we start with you over there? Who are you?
My name is Yomi.
Damilola.
Fola.
Buki.
Amomi.
And Zaza. Okay, so today our topic is what are we teaching our children? And we're spending the weekend together and we've had many a conversation, and so we thought we'd bring this to you guys because it's just something we spoke about. So do you think, and I think I started this conversation the other night when I said, I actually said something to you today about that. I think sometimes as parents, we are not really helping our children.
Yeah.
I believe that we're supposed to be raising adults, not children. So we have to think about who they're going to be rather than who they are now. Yes. And it brought up a whole heap of conversations. So what did you say when I said that? You can't remember. Am I picking on you?
I really can't remember, but just from that question alone, I think, when we think about the children we have, when you have a child, you look at the child, you have a baby. So, of course, the natural instinct is to protect, to look after, to nurture that baby. Now, as the baby gets older, you give they start, well, actually, let's put it this way. As they start to move, they get slightly more independent, which sometimes we as moms struggle with. The child wants to trip over or stumbles over, like, oh, and the child's not afraid because they will get back up because they're determined to do whatever it is. Yeah. And that goes on to walking stages as well. They fall down the stairs sometimes, off sofas and things. But, we have that instinct to just protect them and look after them. And I think what we don't tend to realize is when to let go, when to let them fall, when to let them get up by themselves, as opposed to helping them get up all the time. And I think a lot of that actually starts when they're that age. Yeah. Because if your child wants to walk, for example, or even just walking along furniture and they fall on their bottoms, your instinct is to help the child up. Yes, yeah. Now, if you sit there and look at the child, watch what he or she does, most times they'll probably get up themselves anyway. But we help them before they can think about that.
Okay, so 100% agree with that. One of the best pieces of information I got as a new mother was from my sister. And what happened was my son was climbing the settee and I was like, get down, don't you do? And she was like, leave him, he's a boy. Let him do what he likes. Just make sure he's safe. Yeah. And that, thank God she told me that, because I probably would have done exactly, not allowed him to be who he is. But I think, so how do we know? And Damilola, I'm coming to you now. I know you have, okay, actually, let's even say the ages of our children and what we have so that because it's quite a mix here, isn't it?
It is.
So what you've got... 3 boys.
I've got 3 boys.
You haven't even got children anymore. You've got men, adults. Okay, so how old are they?
Okay, the first one's 31, second one 26, and the last one's 25.
Okay. Dami?
I have 2 boys. One is 12, one is 5.
Fola?
2 boys. One 26, the other 19.
This is the boys setting.
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
So, yes.
Can you imagine? Okay, Moby, what have you got?
I've got one of each. My son's 19 now, and my daughter's 16.
Okay. 5 was your youngest, I mean.
Yes.
Okay. What have you got?
Yeah, I've got a son who is 28. Yeah.
Goodness gracious, they're all adults here. Okay, it's just you and me that have children.
And my daughter, she's 21, going to 22 in a month's time.
Okay, all right, and I have 4 from 22 to 12. Okay, so I was going to say, so we've got a range, and I've got 2, so I've got 2 girls and 2 boys. So this is the mixed boy and girl sofa, and that's the boy sofa. And that's an entirely different show, actually. Raising boys and, that's something.
Boys.
But I think sometimes as a mother, we, like you said, we don't know when to let go. So, Dami, do you think, what sort of mother are you? Do you think that you know when to let go? As in, how do you raise your boys?
Well, but 2 of my boys are quite different in temperament and in the way they behave. My first is very quiet, he's very obedient. In fact, before I say do this, he does it. Even I don't need to prompt to do anything, do much. And it was quite easy to raise, it was quite easy to train, to do most things. But my second...
Yeah, that's what my first
But
child
my
is.
second is quite, should I say, is quite active. He was I had to watch him all the time make sure he doesn't get into trouble.
sounds
So
very-
raising it was quite a challenge
great.
actually raising him because I was used to the way I raised my first, which was very easy. But my second presented a challenge. So I was actually always complaining and saying, "Oh, this boy is too active. He's too this, too that." But I had to step back and say, "Oh, I have to raise him a different way because he's a different child." So he was more challenging to raise than it was.
Okay, so how did you know that you had to raise him differently? Was it
Yeah,
just
because-
because of circumstances?
Well, I
because
tried
I think
to-
sometimes a lot of parents just bulk raise their children, and they're individuals. So I think that's a very valid.
So for me initially, I was trying to do all the things I did for my first. I was trying to do it for my second, but I realized that it wasn't working.
Okay.
So, for instance, to sleep train him, my first within a week he was sleep trained, but my second it took me months. After I had to just let him go, that he would start sleeping on his own because it just wasn't working. So I now realized even to teach him how to in learning as well, in everything he was just so different. And I had to realize to learn the hard way that no, it wasn't working for my second way, worked for my first. So I had to look for a way that would work for him. So I had to raise them differently because they were two different. They were two opposites.
human
They were two different.
Okay, so
boys.
please pause there. Can I ask all of us, have we all raised our children individually
Yes.
Yeah.
from the get-go?
Yeah.
Well, I had to because similarly to what Dami said, well, my first was my hyper live wire human being because I mean he was up and about, and I think I might have told you this before. Climbing onto furniture. By the time he was 5 months, he was walking by 8 months, so he was really
Just
active
like
and
his
was
mama.
Let's not go into that. But, I mean, we got used to each other. Because I'd taken time off anyway, I took 2 years off work to look after him myself because I wanted to know what it was like to really be a mom. That was for me anyway. I didn't really put in as many restrictions or boundaries, let's put it that way, because it was just a baby. I was learning from him just as much as he was learning from me. But he kept me busy. I was very fit at that time. But I decided I wasn't having any more kids after having him.
Yes.
But then I had the second one, a lot more, how will I put it now? He was just a determined, and this is even before they grew to be anything as babies, just a determined little baby that was like, you need to know what I need now, mother. So you had to walk according to his own times. You had to know when his next feed was due before he opened his mouth. So that was
So he
what
taught you how to mother him.
he did. He would tell you, this is what I like, and you had to do that because I wanted peace, and that was all. And then I had the third one who was as placid, the happiest baby on the planet. Just feed him, look after him, put him to bed. He did everything, no need for, it was effortless.
Okay, so you did, okay. So Fola, did you intentionally raise them differently or did they make you raise them differently?
I think they're two different characters. One, then, as toddlers, one was calmer than the other, but now they're both very calm men. So at least for the first one, an active child, he did everything and he was trying to, because we knew if he gets bored easily, he gets distracted. So basically occupied him with different kind of sporting activities. So he's learning how to play a musical instrument, but making sure because he was an only child for quite some time. So I was making sure that he interacted with other children before, the assumption that he was spoiled, but that was not the intention. And then the second one came and that seemed to calm him down a bit more. But I think with the second one, because I had the experience of an active baby, the second one was kind of active, but I think I was prepared.
Okay.
So I think with some people, if they're not, if you have a very calm child as the first one, and the second one becomes active, is not as calm as as the first one, you can't get a bit worried. But I think I raised them differently because they're both different men. And they're such lovely gentlemen now, but obviously in their toddler.
If you do say so yourself, we will decide.
But in their formative years, yes, it was a bit of a challenge being a mother of boys and not knowing what to do. But there was support, so I think that is always very important: is having the support of family and friends. Because if you don't have that, to ask someone, why do boys do this? And one thing I've always vouched for is I read 2 books. One was called Raising Boys, and the other was called Bringing Up Boys, because I was confused. And I needed some direction to let me know if I was a bad mother or if there were things I needed to do differently or better. So those books came in really handy.
I'm not going to ask you guys exactly the same question, but I'm going to ask, because you have girls, because also you see there's a thing about raising them individually, but also raising girls and boys, that whether we raise them differently. Do you think, were you both intentional? Okay, let me start with you. Were you intentional about raising them differently, or did it happen to you?
I think it was a bit of both, actually, because I think when it comes to, there's something instinctively that tells you a boy is different to a girl. So when you're trying to raise children, of different sexes, you almost automatically go in that line of direction or thinking. But also, when the personalities start to emerge, you realize very quickly, actually, they are really different human beings. So trying to get to understand them as human beings, besides, the differences in gender and sexes, or, whatever we want to use, however we want to define that terminology now. You also think about their needs, you think about their personality, you think about what it is they are, besides the very basic care that you give to your child, which, every mother, it doesn't come, there's no manual that you're given as a mom, when you have children, but instinctively in you, and within your heart that there are certain things that, your child needs. But over and beyond that, the child in themselves, in that interaction, like someone rightly said, they start to actually guide us and direct us and teach us about who they are, and we respond to those specifics, and so inevitably, how one raises them becomes very bespoke, and it cannot be one size fits all, really.
Thank you. Bookie.
Well,
were you intentional about raising them differently? I mean, again, boy and girl, so I think somehow that makes it a bit easier to be intentional about that.
Well, I don't think we did. We just took the kids as a person, both of them, of course, my son was a boy and all that, but we didn't go out to say, oh, because he's a boy, this is how we're supposed to raise him. But I guess, for us, of course, I'm sure, like most of us, they were born in a church, in a community where there were a lot of other people that would look after them. So we didn't really set out to say, okay, this person is a boy, but more we catered for the spirit instead of the gender. So that was what I think my husband and I went for.
Stop. So do you see what this bookie has come to do here? First of all of us spoke. We said I. When I was bookie came, she said we first. Then you now catered for the spirit. You want to finish us here? Should we throw her off now, or should we leave her? Sorry, continue.
No, so that was the way because, for example, my son was very active. I mean, in church, Wumi would testify, I didn't sit down. I mean, 1 minute is there, the second minute is gone, and I'm like, where is he? And is outside when everybody is listening to a teacher. My son is, on the swing, and I'm like, Lord, and it came to a point where it's like I had to pray to God. I'm like, God, I need help. We need help, because even for my husband Femi, he too is like, there's a way we have to do something about this boy. It's not as if it wasn't a bad boy. It was just active, And I remember one of his Sunday school teacher. She's dead now. We call her Mommy Fakaride. She will always say, when he's sleeping, put your hands on his head and pray. So we have to find something for him to do so that he's busy doing something. So that was how. And with my daughter, she was quiet. We call her Miss I'll do it myself. If you want to help her with something, she'll say, I will do it myself. So you don't need to watch her like my son, So, I had a quiet time with her. But with my son, I mean, within a month or two, I'd lost weight. When how there was no, after baby fat or whatever, when you've had a baby. So it was very active. So, like I said, we catered for, what is this child? How can we, you don't want to break him. Do you understand? You don't want to break the spirit.
Yeah.
That was what we worked towards. Because if you say that, because it's active, after a while, he did get a bit of spanking, and thinking about it now, maybe we shouldn't have done that, because we speak about this, at home, that, sometimes we say, I got more than she did, and thinking back, I would say that maybe we shouldn't have done that, but it's because of what we learn from our parents. When a child is...
That's another thing.
Bookies, yeah, in the spirit. So we are taking you to the next point. So yes, so I think part of what we were discussing yesterday as well was also about what we learn. So we were saying, what are we teaching our children, and effectively, why are we teaching it to them? Because it's something like we've picked up.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I want to ask you, mothers of boys, because we have daughters, is I know for a fact that in our culture, whether we choose to or not, well, this is what I believe, you might disagree, but I believe that there's a certain element of subconsciousness in the way we raise our women. We're raising our girls to be good wives. Like almost like, and I've said this many times on Chez Zasaa, almost like wifehood is the goal, which really annoys me. But anyway, we raise... Do you, as mothers of boys, are you consciously ready? Because I always say, like, I want my boys to be like eligible bachelors, like to bring something to how you say, she's a good wife, she's a good one to marry. I want them to say that about my boys too, not just my girls. So I wonder whether, as mothers of boys, I mean, I know we have boys too, so you can speak to this as well, but as mothers of boys in particular, being as you don't have girls, sorry, I'm not using that over you, but no, but as mothers of boys, do you consciously think about that at all?
I will start on that one. That was one of my passions when I had my first son. Right. Okay, my husband is one of 3 boys, and I guess, and in my own family, 2 boys, 2 girls. We were quite similar, but there was a slight difference with the girls in terms of, the way we all did this. My mom was like, you all have to do certain things. You all had to learn how to cook, clean, do everything. Yes, the boys had more liberties in terms of, that boy mentality, so they had probably a bit more freedom. With my humans, when I had them, my babies, I was like, well, there's certain things that, but the thing is, I know it's not a common thing, because I noticed that there were many boys that everything was done by the female person in their household. They weren't really, and they didn't think anything of it, and also, let's not blame the boys. I think it started from their dads, grandfathers, and beyond. But it was just something that they were used to seeing. The community as a whole. What do you hear? Okunini efile. The girl is the one that is... Sorry, that means is a boy living alone. The girl is the one that can bring shame to your family. Is the girl that if she doesn't know how to cook, she's a disgrace to your family. If she doesn't know how to clean, she's a disgrace to your family. Why does it have to be so? Why can't the husband help her? Now, for me, regardless of what sex of child I would have had, well, I told God I didn't want any girls because there's only room for one queen. So anyway, that's another topic. But had my first and I thought, yeah, lovely, wonderful human being. And, very different characters. But the main thing is, you are not going to be a liability to any woman. No child of mine is going to be a liability to any woman. Because even though we do have lots of men that say, I'm helping my wife. Let's be honest, a lot of women are run ragged because they're used to taking on 90%, I would say, of the responsibility of what goes on in the home. And, when you think about it, in the communities we live in now, most of us, we say everything is done 50-50, and people come from various parts of, you're washing plates, you're doing this, you're doing that. Even though they do that, it's and you know, I'm not knocking them for what they do or don't do, but they could do a lot more. They could do a lot more.
So, do you feel like you can confidently say that your boys, I mean, you know, we can't predict anything, but that you have given them what they need to, like,
Absolutely.
as you would have done if you was with us?
100%. I can confidently say that because, you know, okay, as I said, my eldest is 31, my middle one, he's 27 in a few months. Actually, the first one is going to be 32 in December. Second one, 27 in December. They don't live in my house anymore. They look after themselves. And from the day they went to, even before they went to uni, you know, they had to, from a very young age, and I think I told this story even a few days yesterday, the day they could cook, or the day they could make bread, was the day they started making their packed lunches. The day they knew how to put on the grill was the day they started making their breakfast. You know, because that's how they learn. I wasn't afraid that they would burn themselves, and really, let's face it, I burnt myself as a child. It didn't heal, and they didn't even have the opportunity of burning themselves because they knew not to. So yes, they had to do their washing themselves when it got to a certain stage. Yes, I helped them with certain things because we were very active, let's put it that way, lots of sports. So there were lots of kids. So depending on the level of there's certain things they would do. But they all had responsibilities.
And you were deliberate about this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Damilola, you have younger boys. Have you been deliberate? Have you started thinking about this yet? Is it even on your radar?
It is very much on my radar. My first is actually very independent. He makes gets his breakfast. I don't even have to get up to do anything. He makes his breakfast before he goes to school. So he's quite independent. When he gets back from school, he knows where to get his dinner, make his dinner. So I'm raising him in that way right now. And the younger one is always asking, Mommy, I want to do something. He's only asking that he's doing something. What will I do? So I started making, take out your note from the bag, you know. He started, no matter how little, he can do something. Lots of times he wants to wash his plate himself or something. Yeah. So, but when he finishes his food, he knows he needs to clean the table. I must not see any crumb or anything on the table. He needs to clean the table after him. So I've started doing that deliberately with them because I have only boys. I'm an only girl. I wasn't the only one in the midst of 3 boys. When I was younger, I used to do everything in the house, cook, clean everything. Even during the holidays, it was like I was just the only one doing everything. My brothers couldn't do anything. So I was quite deliberate about my sons must not be like that. No. So I was absolutely. And luckily for me, I had only boys. So who's going to do all the housework? No, it's not going to do. So they're going to start, doing things by themselves now. So my first one is quite independent right now. My second one, I started with him already. It's not too young, so he has to clean his shoes.
Yeah,
he has to pack his
absolutely.
school bag. You understand? So it's quite deliberate for me. I have to make an effort because I did all the working when I was young. Nobody's going to do that in my house. No.
Fantastic. Fola, what about you?
But the thing is, I don't even get into their business now because they're all adults. But I believe.
So the question is, were you intentional about raising men that would be?
Oh yeah, because at the end of the day, the children are observant. They see what's happening at home, and they'll pick and choose just the way we observed our own parents. And you pick and choose the nice bits of your parents that you like, and you discard the bits of your parents that you don't like. So it's the same with any child. Any child would. There's this proverb in Yoruba: "Iyani wura, baba ni digi." Mother is gold, wura, and father is digi. Is a mirror of glass, mirror. So, a mother is treated like gold, but the father is the mirror of that child. And a good child is the father's child. A bad child is the mother's child.
I know, it's like what?
But however, is when you have a couple that are intentional in raising their children. Yes, I have boys, but the blessing now is that my boys are so close to their dad. I feel a bit freer than before where, it was like mommy this, mommy that. But now if they don't have to rely on mommy to do anything, they can do it themselves. Or they have a conversation with their dad. What concerns me is their bedroom. They are big men. They know where the kitchen is. So everybody is kind of like and I think going to university also helped them as well because mommy is not there to cook for you. Dad is not there to cook for you. If you like, cook. If you like, don't cook. When the hunger has reached that level, you'll know where the kitchen is. So I think for me, I'm hopeful that I'm raising adult men that will become good husbands. But you know how these things are. We also have my prayer for my children, and I've been praying for good wives for them from the get-go.
Yeah.
Of course.
Is that whoever they marry will be a woman that they appreciate, and also the woman will appreciate them, and they'll work as a team, because it's very important for us to say, I've raised my child to be a cook, a cleaner, whatever. However, will that child transcribe everything you've taught them into their home? Are they just going to sit down and fold their hands, I'm an African husband, you go and cook? It all depends on the what's the word? Whatever it is that you've instilled in that child, that it takes them into adulthood. And I think you raise your children, you pray for the best, you hope for the best, cover them with prayers, because at the end of the day, whatever we teach them, we hope they'll mirror that. Because if a child does something wrong, that's her child. You don't, but as Buki has mentioned already, prayer. I think that's key. Because no matter what you teach, you need to pray.
I have to stop you. Can you believe we've already done 26 minutes?
It's a lie.
We've done 26 minutes?
Yes, I can believe it.
Okay, so we have to have a part 2. Like, we haven't even started on this side. So we have to have a part 2. So you'll see the part 2. Thank you very much for watching Chez Zasaa. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube. And if you have any comments, anything you'd like us to talk about, just let us know. And we'll see you in part 2.